everybody. Welcome back to Reviewing the Nerds. I'm Vincent.
And I am Mike. And today we're reviewing Fantastic Four.
Shit-tastic Four.
Alright,
so, but by the time our little video gets out, this movie will be out for a while. So so expect spoilers throughout this review, because why not?
I mean, for as famous as, like, the Avengers is for being good, this is going to be as famous for being bad.
Yeah, which is a shame. Mike, you want to get some of the background information on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those cases of the studio trying to reboot way too soon after the fact of another series already existing. The originals with Fantastic Four, Chris Evans, you remember him, Captain America and all that, they harken back to Stan Lee's version of the Fantastic Four in the 60s. A lot of people trash them for being light, and yes, I will admit, the Dalmatian covering its eyes as the fire truck's about to go off the bridge, way too much, okay? But, obviously they were kind of harkening back to the way Richard Donner used humor in Superman. It was kind of a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and stuff, and yes, it had a lot of issues, but I thought that it flowed narratively. I thought that the characters and the cast were strong. It definitely needed improvement, and I was ready for a more angsty, gritty version. I actually was excited when I heard that Josh Trank, the director of Chronicle, was on this, because Chronicle was a movie that I thought was really a good film. I thought that the acting was great, and that fight scene in the finale was one of the best city superhero fight scenes I've ever seen. I think it matches up with some of the best of them.
Yeah, for a found footage type film, yeah, it actually worked really well.
Yeah, it was a great character piece. So it was a very exciting concept that this guy was being given a big budget to work with.
So, I mean, everyone knows the story of the Fantastic Four by now, but this one takes a little different direction, because apparently it goes off the Ultimate Universe comics. Basically, Reed Richards is a very young super genius who develops a teleportation machine, but it actually is an interdimensional transporter, a foundation run by Johnny and Sue Storm's father hires him to help them complete their interdimensional traveler. He works with Johnny, he works with Sue, he also works with Victor Von Doom. This is before he becomes a bad guy. And they finish the machine, they go through it into another dimension, shit goes wrong, their molecules get scrambled with elemental forces and such like that, and including Reed's good friend Ben, who's been by his side for years supporting him in his scientific endeavors. And
1 year later! That's what the movie feels like.
Yeah.
You're following a flow of narrative, and then suddenly, 1 year later!
You can definitely tell, I mean, we're going to get into more detail like Mike said later, but the movie studio took over from the director at some point in the film, and you can definitely tell. Because after, the second act, which the first and the second act really just kind of blend together, the pacing of the third act is insane. It just goes boom, right off the bat. And it was weird because from the first half or so of the movie, it takes the pacing very slow. They take their time, but that gets really boring. And by the time the next part of the movie begins, is where they get their powers. And at first, I thought, okay, the movie's gonna pick up. Things are gonna get good now, because when you first see the heroes waking up from their accident and they're realizing their bodies have been altered, it actually is acted pretty well for the actors. I mean, the Thing, Jamie Bell, who plays the Thing, even though it's motion capture or whatever, he really seems afraid because he doesn't know what's happened to his body, and he's reaching up to Reed, and Reed, his arms are all stretched out and they're tied down, and he's crying out for his friends.
It's like a horror movie.
Yeah, it is actually okay. Wow, the movie's gonna get good now. And then it's they're Victor Von Doom's here. We gotta go fit him. The world's gonna end. We gotta stop him. Boom, and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened?
The first half of the film is watchable. It's not absolutely terrible. I have a few things, like he mentioned, it was maybe a little slow, maybe a little bland, which is true. But the thing that worked about it is that it was like a science fiction film. It was a story of exploration.
That's what the Fantastic Four should be about.
Yeah, so you were kind of excited to see what this other dimension was. Well, not excited, but you were interested at least to see what this other dimension was. And overall, if you look at it, it sticks relatively close to the Ultimate Fantastic Four comics. They had Reed Richards get discovered at a young age at a science fair. He gets brought on, and he meets Victor Von Doom, and together they come up with this formula for interdimensional travel. So that stuff actually sticks kind of close to the comics. It's just that you're waiting for a payoff, and this film never delivers that.
Yeah. And
in the first half, even there are some things. I don't know if you can blame the movie itself for this, but I have issues with a young Reed Richards, 7 or 8, coming up with interdimensional travel without even realizing that he did it. I know there are child prodigies out there like Mozart and people like that, but for me to believe, that's a huge leap from music composition to interdimensional space travel.
If I'm watching a movie where I have to accept that one man can burst into flames and fly, another man is covered in rock-like skin and can like punch his way through a tank, a woman can go invisible and create energy fields around her and other objects that cannot be penetrated, one man can skin, flesh, and bones become malleable and he can stretch and all that. A super genius kid at that age, I personally don't have a problem with that. Once again, I totally see where my buddy's coming from here. Well, but me, that's not that. For me, that it's a minor point in the film.
Well, my counter argument to that is that, well, no, it's just that the way that good science fiction works is that they stretch science to a certain point. Stretch. But it's all connected to something that you can grab a hold of. Like, for instance, I don't know for sure what would happen to someone if they went to another dimension and got exposed to some energy. I don't know if they would turn stretchy or turn on fire. That's a little bit of a realm of suspension of disbelief. But what I do know is that a child that young cannot come up with interdimensional space travel. So that's where I have trouble grabbing onto that. Science fiction should work off of what could maybe happen in a hypothetical situation. I still have somewhat of an issue with how young some of the cast members are. Miles Teller, who obviously killed it in Whiplash, we all know that he's a talented up-and-coming actor. He is really, really young, and he looks really, really young. Like, to me, Reed Richards should be a little bit seasoned. You know, even if he is a younger version of the character, it should be played by someone that looks like they've lived life a little bit, you know, or something. This guy, he still looks like he's 16. Which, no offense to Miles Teller, man, talented dude, but he looks really young. And Kate Mara is like, I think about 10 years older than him or something.
Yeah, but Kate Mara has a youthful look to her, so she totally still fits her character.
Yeah, it's
from an age point of view.
Cradle robber! But,
it's all legal, babe.
Yeah, and the cast is overall pretty good. Jamie Bell is kind of questionable as the thing.
Well, he didn't really get a lot to do in this film.
No.
I mean, seriously, I mean, he's there. I mean, they have Ben Grimm, played by Jamie Bell. He's there for two purposes. He's one, there to be Reed's friend, and two, there to be the muscle in the group. There's a short 10 minutes stretch in the film where they may give him a little bit of character development, but then it's all over by the time the bad guy shows up. They really underutilized him in this film. Maybe in the original cut he was used more, but what I saw, like, they barely used him.
He just had this, like, tough guy persona he kept pushing at us, and I didn't really see a lot of dimensions beneath that. You knew he came from kind of a background in poverty, and he had an abusive older brother and stuff, but I never really saw a lot of dimensions. And there was never a payoff for the friendship between him and Reed Richards. Like, they built it up. You see them as children in the beginning of the movie, growing up together, that they never, lost each other's sides and shit like that. And then, after this accident happens, he's kind of pissed off at Reed, and they have this scene where they're kind of like, yo, man, you bailed on me after I got turned into a rock creature. I don't forgive you for that. And then out of nowhere, Dr. Doom shows up and they're like, oh, forget all that, we're buddies again, yeah, let's go fight Dr. Doom.
Yeah, it was like in Spider-Man 3, after, Harry finds out, it was like, oh, my dad killed himself? Huh. I'm gonna go get a beer with Pete. Wait, what?
Yeah.
What? And, they never, there's so many things, and once again, it's definitely, I don't blame Jamie Bell for what happened to the character, I blame the fact that I blame what happened behind the scenes. I mean, I blame the fact that they just didn't use the character enough. I mean, seriously, he's in the beginning, he's in the first 10 minutes of the film, we don't see him again for another half an hour. He comes in just for the accident to happen, and then he's the thing, and then they fight the bad guy and the movie's over. It's such
Well, that's another fucking thing, by the way. The way that this accident happens is ridiculous. These guys, I understand, by the way, they want to be the first ones to go to this other dimension, that part makes sense. But the fact that they're motivated by getting drunk, and that Reed Richards drunkenly calls up Ben Grimm is like, hey, buddy, we're gonna go to another dimension. You want to come? Yeah, we're drunk, but it's cool, man. Come with us. It's like this whole thing happens because they got drunk and were stupid. That's not interesting to me. What would have been interesting if they stuck with the sober mentality of we want to be the first ones to do this. And the drunk thing it felt stupidly motivated. It just didn't make me respect the characters. Yeah. Like the original accident in the first Fantastic Four, it was motivated by completely by rational thought. It was just an accident. It was a random freak accident. It was no one's fault.
Yeah, no, they want to go into space. They want to explore.
This is specifically their fault because they're fucking drunk idiots.
Yeah. Even though by the time they go through the machine and end up on the alternate universe, they actually seem pretty sober. They sobered up real quick. I guess they each had a couple of Aquafinas. I don't know, maybe had a late night bite, but they all seemed pretty sober by the time they went through the machine.
There's also Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch.
Yeah.
Who I really think was underutilized, even almost as much as Jamie Bell. I hate to say this.
He got more screen time than Jamie Bell, but...
He's like, I race cars, and I come in occasionally and make some kind of funny comment. He didn't have any real character.
Yeah.
And for Josh Trank, who in interviews said he fought so hard to... By the way, which is great. I am. That's the one thing about Josh Trank that I'll say that's positive about him as a person, is that he didn't see it being a problem that a black person could play a character that was supposed to be a white...
traditionally white.
That was traditionally white. That's cool. That's forward thinking, and it also creates so many possibilities for future superheroes. But for a guy who fought so hard for this concept, he did not give him enough to work with. Michael B. Jordan hardly had anything to do. He embraced his powers more than the others, but
what really, if you don't mind me cutting in, man, what really pissed me off about the character is one of the few things to do with the character is that he has a bad relationship with his father. Like Michael B. Jordan doesn't want to really be necessarily a scientist. He likes cars. He wants to be a car. Gets into street racing, and he gets involved in the project so his dad will buy him a new car. And that's it. That's the big thing about his character. Him and his dad do not get along at well. And once again, spoiler here, their dad dies towards the end of the film. Right before the big fight, Doom kills him for really no reason except just to kill him. And he's like, no, Dad, no. And then they go fight Doom, and then it's not really addressed again. It's not. I mean, you guys have been fighting your whole film. That's part of your character's, personal story arc within the movie. And your dad dies, and you're like, oh no, Dad. And then it's not. And they're like, well, they never have a scene like, I really miss Dad. At least give me that. At least give me, I missed my father who just died.
Well, and this goes back to what we were talking about with unresolved character arcs. Emotionally and on this, it's like there's so many things that were unresolved. The relationship between Ben Grimm and Reed Richards, the relationship between Johnny Storm and his father. There was nothing that was really resolved satisfyingly by the end of the film, because the first half does set up things that never pays off in that horribly choppy, crazy last half of the movie. Another thing, though, motivation. We're talking about again. They're motivated by drunkenness to go to the other dimension, and then Johnny Storm is motivated to get in this project to begin with because he wants his car back. That's not interesting to me. I want my fast car so I can drive recklessly through the streets. So I'm going to do this welding and all this other shit, all these other random skills that I apparently have to help them build this machine.
Yeah, and the car they give him to drive, he just get a small street race. The car at the beginning, I mean, I could see this car being cool looking if it had a better paint job. I mean,
well, he built it himself. He said,
apparently the engine is really good, but not because he burns the fuck out.
The studio, one of the things that they said that they needed, they said we need Kate Mara in this movie. While Josh Trank felt he needed Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara came with the package, and the rumor is that he was very unhappy with this and was not very kind to her on set, or basically any of his actors. But Kate Mara, she's well known from House of Cards right now. Beautiful woman, obviously. Little older than Miles Teller, but hey, what do you got?
It's characters. I mean, how many people play high schoolers when they're really in their mid to late 20s? So why can't, I mean, she doesn't, that's the thing about Kate Mara. She really doesn't look like she's in her 30s. She still looks like she's in her early 20s, so she manages the character.
It was a weird choice to not have her involved in the accident directly. To have her get affected indirectly, kind of.
Yeah, that's the one thing about when the accident happens. When the accident happens, it kind of takes off from the classic sci-fi horror film The Fly, where that movie, a man makes a teleporting machine and a fly gets in there and his DNA gets mixed with the fly and he slowly turns into a fly creature. They did the same thing here. When a teleportation accident happens, Ben Grimm's got rocks flying on top of him, so he gets mixed and he becomes rock. Johnny, there's an explosion, he gets engulfed in flames and Human Torch. Kate Mara, who plays Sue Storm, she gets hit by the exhaust of them coming back, the energy, and it makes her invisible and gives her force fields. I mean, compared to how they make sense of the other two's powers, not much. And then Miles Teller, his powers, I don't know. It's not like he got covered in rubber. Well, why try to make sense of how the Thing and the Human Torch's powers manifest, but not really make sense of the other ones? It's just oh, that's just how it happens. Either it's all random, or each one of them has something specific happen to them in the accident that alters them. I'm just make it uniform.
Yeah.
Either have it like even the Roger Corman film was like, oh, we all got our powers based on our personalities. Just like have something going on.
Yeah.
Uniformity.
So now we get to Toby Kebbell as Dr. Doom. Toby Kebbell is an actor that I've followed for a little while. I was a big fan of his in Rock and Rolla. He was fantastic in that movie. He was a very good villain in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He played the gray, ugly-looking villain ape. He's a good choice, and especially if you see what Dr. Doom looks like in the Ultimate comics, he actually looks a little like him, and so I guess it works.
So in the previous film that we saw before that people were saying was too lighthearted and all that, they make Doctor Doom basically a Lex Luthor knockoff. I mean, traditionally in the comics, Doctor Doom is, he's a dictator of his own country. He's not only a master scientist, but he's a master sorcerer at the same time, which is what makes him so incredibly powerful. In that one, he was just like a Lex Luthor knockoff. In this one, he's just a genius asshole that gets a ton of power and he's like, I should destroy the world. I mean, seriously, it doesn't make.
He wasn't even that bad of a guy to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I think
kind of a douche.
Yeah, he's a bit of an asshole. He kind of seemed lighten up a tad at one point in the film, but I guess maybe if I had godlike powers and I was alone on a planet for a whole year, maybe I'd get like that.
But again, the movie's skipping character development.
Yeah.
We're not seeing that happen. Just like with the year later skip, we're not seeing the Fantastic Four really discover their powers, and that's one of the best things about superhero origin films is when you see the heroes discover their abilities and you see how they put them to use. In this movie, we skip all of that, and the same thing with all the characters.
Yeah, one final point, Dr. Doom. Why the fuck did you make him look like a fucking Picasso painting? Holy fucking shit. Make the villain look good. Put him in some kind of armor, have him shoot fucking laser beams out of his hands, have him run his own country. Stop fucking up, Doom! Stop!
Okay.
No, Michael!
Calm down, dude. Calm down. Calm down. Just breathe. Breathe. Okay.
They were originally going to call him Dom Chef. Because I understand that. You don't want to call him Doom. No, that sounds silly nowadays. But no, they didn't have the fucking balls to stick with his name, and it turned into some mutilated green shit like he was a Toxic Adventure's cousin.
All right, calm down, Vincent. Breathe. Okay. So, another thing, too, don't have your main villain of the film show up in the last 15, 20 minutes of the movie. Like, he was gone, and then suddenly he's back, and without any development, the villain, and he's killing everybody, and he's even trying to kill Susan Storm, who apparently they had a relationship with. It was completely just. That's the main thing we're going to end, I think, this part of the review on, is that it was incredibly unstructured in the end, not resolving different character arcs or emotional ties, no payoff, crammed together, choppy, messy, a mess. So, let's get into the visual effects. Some of them are pretty cool. I think that the Reed Richards stretch effects were definitely improved upon from the original Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and the Thing looks really great. I thought they did a great job with him. I
felt a little bit too much of a disconnection from Jamie Bell in the Thing, but that might be because Jamie Bell was never really that well established to begin with.
Yeah, the character of just Ben Grimm before the Thing. So I mean, how can we know the Thing if we don't know Ben first? That's what the previous series we got to know Ben. Before he became the Thing, we got to know him, and we actually felt a little bad for him when his wife left him, or like his fiance, I should say. But here it's like he's like I said when we were talking about the characters, he's just there to be Reed's friend and be the muscle of the group. So
and then to have a really unresolved conflict with Reed in the end.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought he looked realistic the way the rocks, because he's all like pieces of rock like form the body. I thought it all looked and moved together pretty well. Might want to put some pants on him. I don't know. I mean, I didn't see his his granite log. I don't know. But
I mean,
still a little weird. I don't know.
I don't have a lot to say about Johnny Storm or Susan Storm because their abilities, the effects weren't really that different from what you saw in the original films. They're kind of like standard on fire effects and visible effects. But the other thing I wanted to comment on. You already discussed, you touched upon Dr. Doom's visual look, but I wanted to see more of that planet because they built that planet up so much, And we never got to really have an understanding of that planet. Like what is the energy? I mean, maybe that's going to be saved in a sequel, or maybe it was one of the things that the studio tampered with and took out of the film. But I really didn't understand that planet. I would have liked to have seen and understood that place a little bit better. It looked pretty cool visually, but there's such a huge gap in understanding about what exactly was happening there.
Yeah, I think it would have been. I mean, all of the planet at the end of the movie serves as a battleground for the last big fight. Which the big fight at the end of the movie is. It was okay. It was okay.
What are the limitations on Doctor Doom's abilities, by the way?
Yeah, I don't understand that. At first, it seemed like he was telekinetic, but then he would.
He can make people's heads implode and shit.
Yeah, which is telekinesis, but at the same time, the one doctor he killed looked his skin was just like cracking and burning and charring, and then the same thing with the Mr. Storm.
Then there was like his customizing like this weird like interdimensional thing with rocks and stuff and an energy beam, which they. Like,
yeah.
Like, I didn't understand
Somehow he was
shit.
able to manipulate the teleporter to create a black hole with the rocks from the other planet. It's just like, wait, how does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, they say like he's the source, but okay, explain how he's the source. Explain how his powers work. At least that's another thing that a previous film did better. They explained his powers a little better. Like he was like some kind of metal thing that could like have
electricity.
Yeah. Through it.
Yeah. All right, so now this brings us all to the captain of this disaster fest, Josh Trank.
Yeah.
Josh Trank, what a disappointment. Coming off of Chronicle, I think even the studio had a lot of faith in the guy. And by the way, the studio is not completely innocent here either. But the stories are coming out about Josh Trank and how incredibly unprofessional and difficult he is to work with are staggering. I don't think I've ever heard of a director being this level of abusive to his cast and crew and neglectful of opinions and other people's thoughts. You hear things about how he almost got in a physical brawl with Miles Teller. Like they were chest to chest, apparently, threatening, hey, you throw the first punch, no, you throw the first punch. For you to have that relationship with your actor, especially someone you fought so hard to have in the movie, what the fuck are you doing, dude? You're supposed to be the captain of the ship. What are you doing? And if you guys want to listen to some really, really constructed bullshit, listen to Josh Trank go on for a couple hours in Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman podcasts. Which, by the way, this is no disrespect to Kevin Smith's Batman and Batman's a great podcast. I highly recommend everyone
Mike loves it. He talks about it all the time.
Batman and Batman, Kevin Smith, man, doing a great job with that podcast. And I think it's actually awesome that he got Josh Trank, because it's a great thing to listen to now, because you just listen to this guy BS his way through this whole interview discussing how close a relationship he had with the studio and Miles Teller, how they were like buddies, and how everyone worked in unison, and how it was his idea to cast Kate Mara, and how he would listen to, and how he's talking about Simon Kinberg, who's brought on to do revisions of the script. Apparently he wasn't happy with that, if the rumors are to be true. But on the podcast he's talking about how oh yeah, I love Simon and I got along great. He makes it sound like he had complete creative control over this film, and I know he was trying to sell the movie, and it's one thing if you're going to try to sell a movie that you don't really believe in, but then he releases this tweet, like the opening weekend of this film, where he is trashing the film and blaming the studio, his bosses, for why it's bad. Dude, do you know how to play the system at all? You don't trash your film opening weekend and then blame your bosses. You'll be lucky if you ever get another job in this town again. It's just nuts. I mean, you hear all these stories. I've been sending him links. The stories that are coming out about this guy are baffling.
I know. I've been like I'm trying to keep on stuff myself, because every time I turn around, I'm hearing about one other, hole in the ship that sank it.
Yeah, it's just, and this is where the studio comes into fault, okay? The studio apparently really, really wanted to push this movie out fast because the rights were going to go back to Marvel, and they wanted to hire a director that could be molded like Mark Webb was for Spider-Man, someone who just came off of a smaller film who would be cheap to get, and they put a lot of faith, I guess, in Josh Trank, and they let him go on long enough where when word came around how bad he was on set, it was already too late to replace him. He'd already done too much shit. So then, what they should have done at this point is stayed the course. I know he's being crazy on set, he's pissing everybody off, but it would have been a more coherent story if you just stuck the course and let him finish his damn film. Them getting involved when they did and tampering with it and doing all the things they did to it, it just made it worse. So this is a huge clusterfuck of mistakes, basically. It's insane.
Some of you may know, some of you Marvel fans, that in 1994 there was a Fantastic Four film. It was done on $1 million budget. which is not a lot to do any movie on, any good stuff, especially a superhero film that requires special effects. It was only created so Marvel could hold on to the movie rights for a little longer, and so they never released it. You can find it now online and other places, like bootleg copies and all that. It's not really a good film, but based on what they had to work with, they did what they could. This was a multi-million-dollar film with credible producers, credible actors, and all that. I have more respect for the 1994 Fantastic Four film than I do for this film. With all its faults, it did what it could with the budget it had and the time it had. I feel bad for the cast. I feel bad for Miles Teller, Jamie Bell, Kate Mara, and Michael B. Jordan, who are all good actors in their own right. They all have credits to their name to prove it. The fact that these talented people had to waste their time and energy on this shithole of a film is ridiculous. And I especially feel bad for Kate Mara and most particularly for Michael B. Jordan. Traditionally, the Human Torch is white, and his sister is also white. They're twins. People lost their fucking minds when it was announced that a black man was going to portray the Human Torch.
21st century, assholes.
Exactly. Look it up online. There's a video where Jamie Bell, Kate Mara, and Michael B. Jordan are being interviewed by some radio show hosts from somewhere down in LA. And literally, the one host actually looks at Michael B. Jordan and Kate Mara, looks at them and goes, he basically says this: "You're black. You're white. How does that work? What do you mean, how does that work?" He didn't ask anything about why they were interested in the film, what they brought to their characters. Did they like working with the other actors? Are they excited? Nothing reasonable journalistic questions that you should be asking about a movie. It is ridiculous that they even had to answer such questions.
The intention was good, and I do respect Josh Trank for trying to take things to another level, because there's a lot of people that still can't see, people of other races playing traditionally white characters. It's time to start updating. I mean, we live in a world that's incredibly diverse. You can't fault this movie for that. That's maybe one of the best contributions this movie's made to actually, it's probably the best contribution it's going to make to the superhero genre at all.
This is what I want to see. If Fox, apparently they're still planning to go through with a sequel. That's what,
I don't think it's going to happen, dude.
I don't think it's going to happen
8% Rotten Tomatoes score.
They're acting like it. They're acting like it.
And the lowest opening for any Marvel film to date.
They've actually handed out surveys at theaters of people after they see the cover. What the most common response, and they ask them, what do you guys want us to do with the Fantastic Four in the sequel? And the most common answer people are handing out is, give it back to Marvel.
Yes.
And you know what? Do it. Even if Marvel decides not to use Fantastic Four, which would be a great idea considering, it'd be great bringing more characters for their Phase 4 after, Infinity War is over, because now they got more new heroes to build, off of.
Well, Sony did it with Spider-Man. Sony made a joint deal, which, 20th Century Fox could still make a profit from these characters just in a joint contract with Marvel. So they should really get Marvel, they should really do that.
And for the love of God, whether or not they give it back to Marvel, please do Dr. Doom justice. Make him a good film.
We have to reboot again, which, god damn it, I don't think I can handle another reboot.
Once again, spoiler, they fucking kill him at the end of the movie. They literally, vaporize him or something. If you're going to reboot it, whatever, just make Dr. Doom decent. Here's the thing about a good antagonist. The better, the more intelligent or more tough you make the bad guy, the better the hero looks for overcoming him. I mean, in this movie they made him super powerful, but the character wasn't cool. He's not... Make Dr. Doom good. He's the kind of bad guy that even the Avengers have trouble with. In the comics, that's how fucking badass he is. Yeah. Make him cool.
It's a disaster in the end. It could have worked had it had a better second half, and maybe the studio didn't get involved, it would have worked. But in the end, who the fuck knows who's to blame for every specific detail, but it didn't work. It's just the level of awfulness that comes in that second half pushes this movie so far down the ladder of the worst superhero films out there. It's quite sad, but I mean, hopefully in the future they will make better decisions.
Guys, thank you for watching again. If you agree, disagree with us, whatever you want to say, leave it in the comments below. We'd love to hear what your thoughts about it. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at @nerds_review, and of course, if you want to see more videos, please subscribe. And until next time, I am Vincent.
And I am Mike.
And this has been Review of the Nerds.